It makes me furious. It really does. Now, presumably what's going on in LA is all because you have a Democratic governor, a Democratic mayor, but then they're going to have to explain why we've had all this terrible flooding and other disasters in very red states all across this country.
Hasan Piker spoke with Senator Bernie Sanders on his channel about a variety of topics. I've done a couple of videos on this. In today's clip, Bernie talks about the Green New Deal and the wildfires in California and where we stand with all of that. I'm going to have some thoughts that I'm going to add as we watch together, and then I want to know what you think in the comments. Let's check it out.
So I want to ask you something about the Green New Deal. In your Green New Deal proposal, you proposed $18 billion increase in national spending specifically to address the more frequent and severe wildfires plaguing the American West. This was, of course, widely panned by the media and also politicians that are backed by the oil and gas industry. And yet the $18 billion is marginal in comparison to the total damage that we've seen in California and Los Angeles this past week. Some estimates ranging from the most conservative estimates ranging from $50 billion to upwards of $100 billion. How do we communicate to the American public that initiatives like the Green New Deal are an absolute necessity going forward in order to truly tackle the climate crisis that is going to seemingly increase these extreme once-in-a-lifetime natural disasters?
That's the problem. They're no longer, Hasan, you're exactly right. They are no longer once in a lifetime. They're no longer once in a decade. And by the way, while I'm here with you, let me just, I love LA. I get out there fairly often, and what's going on is unimaginable, and I know people are suffering, just so worried. And we're going to do what we can to help rebuild LA. Your point is, well, I think there are 2 points that need to be made. We have got to combat every ounce of strength that we have people like Trump who think that climate change is a hoax. This is, as I understand it, the warmest year on record, followed by 9 preceding years, which were the warmest years on record. Climate change is real. What you're seeing in LA is part of what we're seeing all over the world, massive climate disturbances, and it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. I mean, it's horrible to almost think of this, say that what's going on in LA today will become fairly common in years to come. But unless the global community comes together, recognize that we got to change our energy systems, we got to take on the lies and the greed of the fossil fuel industry. We have to do what the Green New Deal is about, create millions of good-paying jobs in energy efficiency and sustainable energy, and we can do it. We can do it. And yes, what the Green New Deal was about is saying, look, that in itself is not going to solve the global climate crisis, but it'll give states and communities better resources in order to deal with the crises that are definitely going to come as we try to transform the system.
It really is a shame that we weren't able to pass that legislation. I think that would have done so much good across so many different categories, issues that, jobs, modernizing the economy with greener, forward-moving energy, infrastructure, and combating, being a leader globally in combating climate change. And yeah, the opposition really sneered at it and made it sound like it was this pipe dream. But the original New Deal was one of the most popular pieces of American legislation, certainly in our lifetime, from which we got Medicare, Medicaid, and these enormously popular entitlement programs. So it's not too late, I suppose. It's just, it would have been nice to have been able to do it the first time around.
Do you feel like the back and forth political conversations or even blaming the likes of DEI or whatever the new Republican thing is on any given basis is simply a misdirection away from the actual the actual reasons as to why anthropogenic climate change is accelerating these extreme weather events?
It makes me furious. It really does. Now, presumably what's going on in LA is all because you have a Democratic governor, a Democratic mayor, but then they're going to have to explain why we've had all this terrible flooding and other disasters in very red states all across this country. You got to be a moron not to understand that climate change does not give a damn whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It is real. So yes, this is simply an attempt to deflate attention, much needed attention, on why climate change is causing devastating problems in LA, throughout our country. My small state of Vermont, in the last number of years, has been hit time and again. Floods which have wreaked havoc for hundreds and hundreds of homeowners, small business people. Our state capital is still impacted by the flood we had a few years ago. This is a global crisis. Those people who are still trying to deny it in order to protect the profits of the fossil fuel industry, I really don't understand it. Their kids are going to suffer. Their grandchildren are going to suffer. I don't know what they think they're gaining by playing a political game with an issue of such existential importance.
It seems like it's short-term profit seeking, which has absolutely eviscerated American manufacturing, as well as ruined even the consumer experience that Americans have in general over year. It's basically a race to the bottom, putting the interests of profits over the interests of people. I had another question about this in particular. Mike Johnson has made inferences to potentially offering conditional aid to the state of California in terms of recovery. In your experience, you've spent many decades in American Congress. Have you ever seen this level of politicization in the aftermath of any sort of natural disaster? And do you feel like Mike Johnson is doing this specifically because they want to potentially use as a way to pass through budget reconciliations without much problems down the line?
I think I have seen a little bit of this stuff in the past, but not to the extent that we're seeing it right now. It really is. Biden and Obama, I think if you check their records, they gave out disaster relief and other types of federal funding really to red states quite as generously or ungenerously as they did to blue states. They really did not discriminate. The idea that the largest state in our country, which has been just devastated by this terrible fire, that they are going to be playing politics with disaster relief is unconscionable. Between you and me, I don't think that they will succeed, because what goes around comes around. You do not. I don't want to see if, God forbid, Idaho is hit by something. We say, well, it's a Republican state. We're not going to give them the help they need. This is America, We're a 50-state country and we have territories. We treat all people equally. And there is a disaster. What being a country is about is we all come to each other's aid. If Vermont gets hit hard by something, I expect the people of California to help us. If California gets hit, people of Vermont got to be there for you. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever you are. That has got to be the basic tenet of how we do federal disaster relief.
To me, that's the greatest tragedy of this whole new ultra-right, this MAGA, Trump-led right-wing movement, is that they've so effectively convinced us as Americans that we're of two ilks, right? That there's a sizable portion of us that believe that like half the country aren't really American anymore and that we're not on the same team, right? I mean, divide and conquer, that's literally the strategy, and he certainly didn't invent it. But I think if you look at polls and you strip all of the kind of dogma and, trigger terms that we've been indoctrinated with out of it, we agree broadly on like 75% of stuff. It's just that they've put flavors on it to convince us that we're enemies with each other.
One last question I have for you before I let you go, and thank you so much for spending time with us today. I've heard from your team that you have been doing this this event in Vermont where you go and play basketball with some of your constituents. Number one, when can we ball? Because that is a dream of mine. And also number two, I've heard that you had some wonderful experiences that made you feel like people are desperate for a sense of community right now and some semblance of community organizing.
Hasan, the reason we're doing this, we're paying this out of campaign funds, is I think in Vermont and all over this country, there is a desperate need for community. We did, during the holiday season in December, 4 events around the state in communities larger and smaller. It was just a fantastic thing, totally non-political. Just people coming out and doing Christmas carols and Hanukkah stuff and just, having, eggnog. And kids are there, and we had local kids entertaining and people singing along with the kids. Beautiful experience. We've now done 9 basketball events. And what I want to do there is not only bringing people out, is I worry the kids are spending too much time on their cell phones. Kids are isolated. So we do these events, and we have foul shooting contests for the little kids and the middle school kids, the high school kids. And we give a free basketball, a good basketball to all of the kids who come, with the hope that these kids will become more active, go out, play some ball, not sit home on their phones all of the time. We also do a chess tournament every year. We do a choir event every year. We do essay contests. We want to involve the kids, and many of these kids are really struggling. These are tough times for kids in high school, middle school. So we're trying to reach out and bring people together in what little ways we can.
All right. Well, I look forward to coming to Vermont and playing basketball with you, Senator. And
Did you shoot hoop?
Yeah, I play basketball quite a bit. I'm training.
All right.
I'm training to see you in the courts.
All right, you got it. Come on. Love to see you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Senator Sanders. Like I said, you're an incredibly impactful person for many people in my community. And I'm very fortunate that you wanted to come on. And hopefully, if I do come to Vermont, maybe we can have a much longer conversation as well.
Let's do it.
I'm a big fan of Bernie. I'm a fan of Hasan Piker's too. I think he's not afraid to call it out when he sees it and say it. He's not afraid to bring his passion, but he also backs it up with data, and he doesn't just roll over in the face of, the sort of bluster and shout down tactics that you get from the right a lot of times. Let me know what you think in the comments.